Hi everyone, welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's Reading List. And this week, I really just want to read, I want to finish 2 books. Which means I'll be reading 2 books physically, because I'm still in the process of listening to the Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know how realistic that is, but let's just get into it. The reason I say I'm not sure how realistic it is just because I'm currently reading the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Sex, which was published in 1967, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It is an encyclopedia of the sexual system, reproductive system in human bodies with illustrations. And so it's interesting, and it's helping me learn, you know, beyond the basics that I was taught in school, which is not a lot, about how things actually work. So in that regard, it is interesting. However, it is nonfiction. I read nonfiction slower, naturally, because I'm learning, and it's also 400 pages. Last night, I read 8 pages of the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Sex, and it was all about sort of the musculature of a penis, and that whole process of it becoming erect. It feels weird to talk about this on my reading vlog, but that's what it was about. I know the next chapter is starting to go into the female reproductive system and genitalia, so that will be useful to learn more about my own body. I think I know things, but I guess we'll see. I'd be interested in seeing if there's an updated equivalent, because like I said, this was published in 1967. I would like to read an illustrated version from this century, maybe. But it is so... I keep saying interesting, because it is, but... so there's that. That's pretty much the only thing I've read so far. For the sake of trying to motivate myself to read it a little bit faster, I did use my spinny wheel to see what book I would read next. And unfortunately, I only say unfortunately because it's just not motivating for me to finish this book. I will be reading the Wodehouse book for this month next, which is Ukridge, and it is, I believe it's short stories. Yeah, I think it's a collection of short stories. I'm not positive. So that's not super motivating, but I guess the motivating thing is that if I finish the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Sex and then I finish Ukridge, that's 2 books from my TBR that I wasn't super thrilled about, which means that next time I use my spinning wheel, I'm more likely to land on a book that I'm interested in. Theoretically. I am doing something a little bit different. I am adding the series that I'm really interested in continuing, that I've started, to my spinning wheel, as well as my monthly TBR. So there's a chance that I will be able to continue a series that I have started and enjoyed, instead of waiting for it to land on my TBR game. So that way, I don't know, it makes sense in my head. I'm always trying to make things make sense in my head. But yeah, which is exciting because there's a chance that I could, read the next book in the Game Changer series, or the next book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. And that's exciting to me, because those are currently my hyperfixations. So yeah, so maybe after I read Ukridge, I can read one of those. We'll see. Knowing my luck, it's gonna land on the D.H. Lawrence books, which is not bad. I should read those. Just not what I want to read at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I wanted to get this vlog started, and I will check in later after I've read something. I've read quite a bit, actually, especially for reading the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Sex, which is exactly what it sounds like. I am, I think, like 48% through, which for nonfiction, for just starting it this past Sunday, so it's been like, what, 4 days? That's a decent amount. Like, I normally read nonfiction a lot slower. It helps that the chapters are really short. Like, the chapters, I think the longest one I've encountered so far was like 20 pages, maybe? But I'm in a part now where I've looked and like the chapters range from anywhere from like 3 pages to like 12. So that sort of helps me like get through it faster, because I'm like, oh, I can read a chapter real quick. And so yesterday, even though Siri told me to read 50 chapters, which but I had like 3-ish hours to read, so I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be able to read that, but I will, for every chapter that I read that is 10 or more pages, I will like take a break and watch a YouTube video. So I was able to actually read quite a bit doing that. I read 97 pages yesterday. So like I said, I'm like halfway, which feels good. I might actually finish it this week, which is amazing. I would like to finish more than a book a week, but just like right now, with the Illustrated Encyclopedia being what I'm reading, I don't think that's realistic. Maybe next week I can read 2 books in 1 week. And then the only other thing, I've not listened to The Count of Monte Cristo as much as I would like, because I keep ending my work days like really badly. Like both on Sunday and on Wednesday, my work day, like the last thing that I had to do just really like just put me in a bad mood, made me not want to focus and concentrate, and so I just listened to music. But on Wednesday, the weather was pretty bad, so I actually listened to about 2 hours, which is what I would listen to like on a normal day. So there's that, I guess. So yeah, I'm hoping that today at work is better. I kind of doubt it, just knowing what I have to do today. But maybe I'll still try to listen to some on my way home. I will definitely listen to it on the way there. And yeah, that's about it. Like, I haven't really had anything going on. I did go to our independent bookstore yesterday. So I had gone to Barnes & Noble on Monday, looking specifically for the Game Changer series, because I only have Heated Rivalry in physical copy, and that is the independently published version, which the latter half of the series is not available in those covers. So I wanted to just get the whole series and have it matching. So I looked for the Game Changer series, and I also wanted to get more of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Barnes & Noble only had one Game Changer book, which was like, I think the 5th one. I went ahead and got it, and then for Dungeon Crawler Carl, they had like 5 of the books, but it was missing the 4th one. So I got the 2nd and 3rd in the series. And then I also got like a different book, I think called Sunburn. So there's that. So on my way home from training yesterday, I'm like, oh, well, the independent bookstore is open today because they weren't on Monday. Let me just go in and like just see really quickly if they have either of those series. Well, they had a whole display for the Game Changer series. So I got Game Changer, Heated Rivalry in the like traditional cover, and then is it Rough Guy or Tough Guy? One of those. And crap, what's the 4th one? The 4th one. I'll put it somewhere. They didn't have, and then I already have Role Model, and so they didn't have the long game, so I went ahead and ordered that, and I will get that sometime next week. And then I also pre-ordered Unrivaled, which is the new book coming out in the series. And then I also looked, and they had the 4th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and so I went ahead and got that as well. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to bookshop anymore. I've spent too much money on books this week. So I think I'm set for a while. But yeah, so I did that and that was fun. But that was pretty much the only thing that I've done this week. So I'm gonna go to work and hope that today is okay. And I will check in probably tomorrow with what I've read. So real quick, I decided I'm actually going to turn this week and next week into a 2-week vlog. One, to get caught up because I don't like posting a 2-week-old vlog. I like to be as caught up as possible. And also because I feel like with only listening to the Count of Monte Cristo, that means that I'm essentially reading 1 book a week right now. Or at least that's the case for the last 3 weeks. And considering my book this week was the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Sex, I just don't feel like that's like super entertaining. So I'm hoping that this upcoming week will be a little bit more, because I know that I'll be reading Ukridge by Wodehouse, which should be funny. But then I already also know the next book I'll be reading after that, because I use my spinning wheel. Because like Wodehouse is kind of a labor of love sometimes. And so I'm like, all right, well, I want to know what my next book is, so hopefully that motivates me to like get reading on Ukridge. And so I know my book after Ukridge will be the second book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. So hopefully this upcoming week will be a little bit more entertaining. So there's that. I did finish reading the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Sex last night when I was at our friend's house for the Bears game, and I was finishing because I had read during work when I had some downtime, and then I finished it when we were at our friend's house. And you didn't read it, so you can't have an opinion. I think that's fair. So I will say, I appreciated that, like, while this book was published in 1967, I was really worried about, like, how the, like, female reproductive system or female view of sex was going to be presented. I was worried about, like, a lot of misogyny. And honestly, for the most part, that really didn't happen. Like, for the most part, it was, like, here's what we know about, like, biology and sex relating to males and females. And so I think like the first half of the book was focused on like purely biology and the biological processes that impact sex, which I thought was really useful because there's a lot in there that was not explained to me in like sex ed, because the American sexual education system is horrendous. So I thought that was really useful. In the second half, we started getting into, like, impotence and sexual issues and diseases and stuff like that. And that was interesting, but, like, from what I know, it's definitely outdated, but, like, I'm not going to hold that against the book. I will say there was definitely more what I interpreted as misogyny in the, like, I want to say, like, last quarter of the book, especially when talking about menopause. And, like, more of just how menopause impacts a female person's body, that the way it was described, I was like, I don't feel like you needed to use the word flabby that much. I feel like you could have used a different word. So, like, there was that. I do feel like for the most part it was pretty informative. I would like to see an updated version published in the last like 10 years. I haven't looked to see if that exists, but I think it would be really useful. But overall, I liked it. It was fairly easy to read considering like it was nonfiction and biology and all this sort of stuff. So I gave it 3.5 stars. I didn't hold the fact that it was published in 1967 against it. I don't do that. I try to honor that like this came out in the time that it came out and it was informed by those times. And I think I'm pretty good at that. It was more of just like, there were some parts that I felt were literally just repeating things that it had already been explained. It didn't need to be explained again. And yeah, the unnecessary misogyny, which, like, I guess most misogyny is, but, like, there's a difference between, like, I can acknowledge that this came out in a time where, like, casual misogyny was much more of a thing and more accepted, versus, like, damn, you guys just don't like old women. So, like, that I couldn't get behind, because it just felt very pointed, and I was like, who hurt you? So yeah, 3.5 stars. I think that's pretty good for a book that, you know, it's what, 60 years old almost. So yeah. And then I did also listen to more of the Count of Monte Cristo. I'm 44% through it, which is awesome. Edmund, our main character, is definitely, he's being a little rascal. He's creating situations. He's just, I'm picturing him like the, like, puppet master. He's just like, he's manipulating everything. And considering what he went through, like, I normally don't like manipulative characters, but, like, considering what he went through, and he's very intentionally, like, he's manipulating a lot of people, but it's for the specific purpose of getting revenge against the people who landed him in prison for 16 years. So I can't be mad at it. I get it. But he's also, like, the people who are not directly involved in him being, you know, accused of this false crime, like, he's not hurting them. He's actually, like, being very nice to them. He's helping them. He's creating situations where he can sort of step in and be the savior to endear himself to them. But he's not causing harm. So I don't know, it's such an interesting thing of, like, I really don't like manipulative people or characters, but I like Edmund. I like how he's going about it. You know, he has his own little moral code, and he's honoring that, and I get it. I understand it. So yeah, so that's what I read. I'm gonna start Ukridge today, and so I'll talk more about that. But yeah, that's what I got. So get ready for another week of me reading, and hopefully this week I finish 2 books instead of just 1. So last night I didn't start, like, doing things until prior on, like, 2. And my to-do list kept giving me, like, pretty physical things to do, like taking down holiday decorations and cleaning and picking up and then working out. And so it refused to land on read or my, like, free space. And I had already decided that if it landed on read, I would read Ukridge. But if it landed on free space, I would read the next Dungeon Crawler Carl book. And I originally was like, oh, well, I'll do the same thing, like, I'll limit it like I do when I'm reading. However, my spinning wheel absolutely refused to land on either of them. It got to the point where I'm like, I was blocking out options because I'm like, no, it's too physical, like, I've done enough physical activity, like, my ankle is hurting, or there's just stuff I didn't want to do. Like, by the time it was, like, 7... Well, by the time it was 6, I'm like, alright, I'm not going back upstairs. Like, I'm tired of going up and down the stairs. And so I took off everything that would require me to go upstairs, and then I made dinner. And then I'm just like, honestly, I don't really want to do anything except read, so I need my spinning wheel to just tell me if I'm reading Ukridge or Dungeon Crawler Carl. And finally it did. Finally. So I started reading Carl's Doomsday Scenario, which is the 2nd book, and it is picking up right where Dungeon Crawler Carl left off, which makes sense. And we are now on the 3rd floor, which, well, okay. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a series where aliens have... invaded is not the right word, but it's the best word. So aliens have invaded, killed the majority of the population, and there's now a dungeon that the survivors can go into to compete And if they make it to the 18th level, they are now the ruler of Earth. However, no one has made it to the 18th level. So that's not very likely. And this dungeon is actually like entertainment for the rest of the universe to watch. And so I described it in my original Dungeon Crawler Carl video of like Hunger Games meets D&D, which is accurate. So the first book was dealing with the first 2 floors, following Carl and his cat companion named Princess Donut, and now we're in the second book, which is about the 3rd floor, and I'm pretty sure it's only the 3rd floor. And in the 3rd floor, they get to change their race and class classification, which is very D&D. They get special, perks for that, or they can add objects that give perks and stuff like. So it's really interesting. I read 150 pages last night because I started reading at 8, and I'm just like, I'm just not in the mood to do anything else, so I'm just gonna keep reading. And so yeah, I read 150 pages. That's like, I think that's like 40%. Whoops. So yeah, that's awesome. And there was a big chunk, I'm trying not to give spoilers for obviously this book or the previous book. There's a big chunk where it was just Carl without Princess Donut, which made me sad, but it wasn't a sad situation. It was just she was sort of incapacitated for the moment. But I continued reading until that was resolved. And yeah, it's still a good time. I felt like this is moving faster, or maybe it's just because I read for a couple hours and that's why I feel like it's moving faster, even though it's probably moving at the same. I feel like there's less like grinding. Like in a game where you're like just trying to build up your character's stats, you just like go and get into combats to build experience. And there was quite a bit of that in the first book, which made sense. And that's not happening as much in this book, which is okay with me because it keeps the action going. And if there is grinding, it's just like they made their way from here to here, killing monsters along the way. And like the scenes aren't necessarily described in a lot of detail, which is totally fine because there's other things going on to focus on that should be described in detail. So yeah, that's what I read. Feel pretty good about that. But I'm going to get ready for my next meeting, and I'm hoping I'm gonna probably do the same thing I did after like work tonight, and after I make dinner, I'll probably do the same thing of just letting my spinning wheel choose, like, am I reading Ukridge or am I reading Carl's Doomsday scenario? So we'll see. I have finished reading Ukridge. I'm gonna start there. I don't think I've talked about Ukridge at all, but yeah, I don't think I have. Ukridge is a collection of short stories that are all connected, but it's not like it's not a novel. They are short stories. They just all happen to have the same main character and Ukridge. Ukridge is this guy that Wodehouse, for some reason, enjoys writing. Don't know why. Nope. He sucks. Reese is rubbing against the tripod. Okay. Yeah, he sucks. He's a manipulative piece of crap, and he's not a good friend, and honestly, it really, really brought the book down. Like, I could see how if Ukridge wasn't there and this was all, like, purely happenstance, there could be some funny moments. But Ukridge, he's just manipulative. He just arranges situations. He screws over his friend, who we don't get his name till like halfway through the book, by the way. But his name is James. They're old school friends. And James is just being dragged into Ukridge's schemes and situations for, like, I don't understand why he's friends. Like, why he's friends with him. So, yeah, it was incredibly frustrating. And My spinning wheel kept making me read, so I'm like, alright, fine, I'm just finishing the book. I really hated it. And because, like, my thing is that I think one of the main differences between me and my dad, especially with Wodehouse, is that there are a lot of times where he doesn't care if a character is unlikable as long as, like, the story is good. Whereas, like, I don't care if the story is good. I need to like the character. At least I think that's the case. I could be wrong. Maybe my dad does need a likable character. I'm not sure. I don't quite remember. I know we've talked about it before, but I feel like that's a big difference between the two of us. But anyway, I need to like the character. I need to give a crap. And I didn't. I don't care about Ukridge. And at that point of, like, finishing the book and James being friends with him since they were in school, like, at that point, you're choosing to keep someone like that in your life, so I don't really care about James either. I just don't. And I told my dad that I think just because, like, I know I'm going to see Ukridge a lot more than I saw Smith, who is, like, my least favorite character from Wodehouse. I think purely because I know I'm going to see Ukridge more than I saw Smith, that he's going to be my least favorite character. So, yeah. And reading, it was only 10 short stories, but reading it within, like, 2.5 days, nope, that didn't help. So I gave it 1 star. Because, honestly, I wish I could have DNF'd it. Right? My dad is going to change some of the order of, like, the books that we're reading so that I don't keep getting just, like, a slew of, like, crappy books. Can you balance on my lap, please? Right here. Thank you. So, yeah, so there's that. The only other thing is that I listened to about an hour of The Count of Monte Cristo on my drive to work yesterday. I think we've hit a little bit of a boring part. We're losing some of the action, but that's okay. I didn't listen to it on my way home because I was very frustrated about work. And listening to kind of a drier part when I'm already frustrated is not beneficial. So there's that. That's what I read. But now, thankfully, now that I'm done with the Wodehouse book, I can resume reading Carl's Doomsday Scenario. And I already know that my next book is actually going to be the 3rd book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which I don't know what the title of that one is, but that will be my next one. So, honestly, I think that's what I need. I need just enjoyment. So, I will check in after I have read some more. I have not gotten a chance to listen to The Count of Monte Cristo except for the, like, hour I did on Wednesday. Because weather's been crazy. So Friday, it was so cold that a lot of things were getting canceled, and including, like, me going to Temple that night. Like, Temple was just, like, closed. And I only had a couple of meetings, so I made them all virtual. And then today, there's just, like, a crap ton of snow. And to where, like, I couldn't have left this morning. So I moved all my meetings virtual again. Which is good because I feel like it's safer. But it does mean that I haven't made any progress on my audiobook. So there's that. I went book shopping again yesterday with Stephanie because the copy of The Long Game that I ordered came in. And I went ahead and picked up the 5th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I'm sort of just, like, picking it up when I see it, just because they are expensive. But speaking of Dungeon Crawler Carl, I finished the 2nd book, Carl's Doomsday Scenario. And I believe I already talked about it because I read like half of it on Monday. And so I finished it this morning since I didn't have to drive to work. And I did really like it. I felt like it was interesting. It was very different from the first book because the first book was a lot of grinding, and I think I mentioned that I was happy that like we didn't focus a lot on that. However, it mentioned it means that we focus a lot more on like the quests. Quests are new on this floor, and we had like 2 main ones that we did, and it, I don't know, it felt very different. Not in a bad way, but I didn't care about the quest. Like, I cared about Carl and Donut doing the quests, and I care about some new people that we were introduced to, but the actual quests themselves, I was like, oh, okay. So I would be interested in like if like in future quests they draw me in more. So I don't know, but I did really like it. It's a very easy read. It was nice to read that after finishing Ukridge. So yeah, I don't have really a ton to say about it. I gave it 4.5 stars. And I'm going to immediately jump into the 3rd book because my spinny wheel landed on continuing to read the series. So I will be starting, was it the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook or something? I think that's what it's called. So I will start that today because after work, I know that we're going over to our friend's house so that they can watch football. Yes, there's football today. So I'll be taking that with me. So yeah. All right, that's it. That's a quick one, but I will let you know tomorrow what my first impressions of the 3rd book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series is. Whew. I am so sleepy. It's been very cold and snowing quite a lot this weekend. And today just kind of feels like a lazy day. So I'm going to wrap up this vlog before I start reading because I have a feeling I'm going to read a lot today because it is a lazy day. Or I might take a nap. But I said I would share what I've read so far of the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook. And I read, I would say like 68 pages, I believe. And it is the 3rd book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, but we're on the 4th floor now, which, and each floor has like sort of a different like theme, and this 4th floor is trains. It's just all trains, which is interesting. So I'm not like super far into it yet, but I think it is, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I just didn't get to read much because I was like being social for the most part. So I don't really have much to say except like they're trains, and it's cool because they're all like different sorts of trains that you would see on Earth. So that's cool. I'm enjoying that part. But other than that, we haven't really gotten into like the meat of the universe yet. So yeah, I don't really have a lot to talk about. I'll talk about it more in next week's vlog. So that is what I've been reading over the last 2 weeks, even though I didn't read or I didn't listen to much of the Count of Monte Cristo, just because like there were times that like I wasn't in the right headspace like after work to listen to it, and then like this weekend because of how cold it was and how snowy it was, I didn't go to the office, so I didn't listen to it. So it looks like I will be listening to the Count of Monte Cristo for like at least half of February as well, if not all of it. So I do think that the amount of books that I have physically read this month is still pretty good. Obviously, it would have, like, my book total would have been a lot better this month if I wasn't listening to the same audiobook the entire month. But that's okay. I'm good with it. So, because I know that once I finish the Count of Monte Cristo, any other audiobook is going to feel so short. So, yeah. I'm just happy that I read 2 books this week, in addition to, you know, the book that I finished last week. But leave me a comment if you are also on the Dungeon Crawler Carl train, because I'd love to talk about it, because so many people in my actual life have not read it. So leave me a comment if you want to chat about it. Like the video, subscribe, or click notification bell. I don't think you can click notification bell without being subscribed. Although I don't think I've tried. I'm pretty sure. But please do all the things, and I really appreciate it. And then my next video will be my February TBR, which will include a consequence book, because obviously, if you're paying attention, I did not read, I didn't read like half my TBR. But my rule was that I got a consequence book if I didn't read 3 or more books from my TBR, which obviously I didn't. So, yeah. Tune into my TBR video to figure out what consequence book I have. Bye.